Born in Los Angeles in 1949, artist Felix Perez grew up in a Chicano neighborhood in the city of San Fernando. While generally comprised of friendly, civic-minded residents, street gang activity was and remains commonplace in this community. During his youth, Felix's family restricted him to a few of the safer blocks around his home. Despite their attempt to shield him, he could not help but become a first-hand witness to the continuous and disastrous evolution of gangs. Over the course of his adult years, Felix has found himself increasingly haunted by disturbing images of the gangster lifestyle of wanton sex, drugs, and violence. Often nightmarish and surprisingly intense, the unrelenting nature of these scenes spurred the artist to express them on canvas, initially to simply purge them from his mind. But soon after he rendered the first several paintings, he experienced other dark and graphic visions, which also needed to be expressed. Before long, Felix had created an art gallery's worth of scenes of destructive gang behavior, paintings with hopelessness and despair as their underlying theme. And then, finally, he came to understand what had brought them to his mind in the first place: his quiet compassion for the lost souls he pictured, and his desire to dissuade others from choosing their path of pain and suffering. Felix refers to his collection as his own private insanity. And as we view it now, we get to take a look at a segment of society gone mad. We're people of the universe. The destructive cycle of gang activity is what Felix Perez calls the urban apocalypse. This depiction of heavily armed males, lower bodies ravaged by sexually transmitted disease, with the corpse of a drug-addicted female at their feet, sets the tone for this expression of dismay with his Chicano community. The lifelessness of these immature faces is a telling symbol of the hopelessness of their being, the American dream just a distant fantasy. Sex, drugs, violence, and death are all these gangsters know. Their activities are a plague on the innocents around them, and too often bring an abrupt end to their unformed young lives.
The female members of any one particular gang consider themselves blood sisters or carnalas. Together they've entered into a blood-in and blood-out pact, vowing to stand with one another to the very end. As shown here, the many are to live as one, exchanging each other's blood, their hearts interconnected. In reality, though, if a sister is shot and killed, she will in time be forgotten, as her carnalas continue with the partying and illicit activities that are the cornerstones of gang life. Death, as always, has a vested interest in every gang member. And no matter what these blood sisters vow, death is the only one that will truly stand with them to the very end.
The carrying out of appalling and senseless random drive-by shootings defies understanding. As pictured by artist Perez, young men will indiscriminately fire their weapons as if sightless or vision impaired, unconcerned with where they are and who or what their bullets maim or kill. Not surprisingly, death is a close companion. Will these young men ever realize that ultimately their violence gains them nothing? If this tattoo is an indication, that answer may be no. How can you talk sense to someone who has the word stupid tattooed on his neck?
Regrettably, many girls and women are as fully capable of murder as we know their male counterparts to be. This painting depicts several girls from various walks of life, each one being a murderess. Hands covered with their victim's blood, these bearers of life have committed unforgivable acts to end it, yet they show not a hint of remorse. Most smile. One even sticks out her tongue, and death in the background welcomes that many more do his bidding.
The gang culture is often so ingrained that simply celebrating a child's birthday can become a celebration of the gang itself. Though family members and friends might see it as cute, dressing this birthday boy in gifts of gang clothing only serves to mold him into a future gangster. A toy gun and the delight of partygoers encourage him to feel the part. Among friends, death helps celebrate. His gift of a limited life completes the picture of a little birthday boy who's truly all dressed up with no place to go.
Whether illegal or under proper supervision, artist Perez believes abortions are cruel to the unborn. This painting is an expression of their horror. Convinced the fetus can feel the pain of the procedure, the artist conveys that agony in the tortured anguish on the mother's face.
Don't play with love.
While AIDS is not the guaranteed death sentence it once was, it remains a disease that calls for regular treatment to manage. For this gangster, it may be too late. A face full of open sores indicates that the virus is active, and the collar and the chain around his neck tell us that he is its slave. Death patiently waits behind him, bracing his body, but he's relieved to know an angel is also there to receive his soul once he dies. Only half alive, his arms and midsection are wasted away. He works a puppet, which represents all the gays, prostitutes, and IV drug users he's transmitted the disease to. Its deathly look is apropos of his fate, which is soon to come.
Welcome to our house.
It's morning in this barrio house, and like every morning, the family's first order of business is not breakfast, but the packaging of their drugs. Artist Perez has painted the contraband as disassembled skeletons. When a buyer buys enough pieces, he can create his own death. Customers can't wait to trade their money for a chemical escape. They don't see that the walls and floor of this house are spray painted with the names of dead drug abusers. As Death is well aware, this family is good for his business.
The automobile is an extended home in the lives of some young Latinos. Irresponsible and bored, continuous parting with drugs and sex has become the essence of who they are, with their cars their playgrounds of choice. Characteristically, they ignore the danger in what they do, yet it's there. This couple is about to have sex, the woman depicted as diseased and pregnant. The fetus rests outside her womb, its umbilical cord a sickly gray. Another baby which won't survive. Packets of cocaine are stuffed into the rips of the car's upholstery. Graffiti is scrawled on the headliner, the markings of others who have partied in this vehicle. The driver wears the distant look of someone battered by his life, vaguely aware he's a prisoner in his car, while a world he's not a part of moves on without him.
In death, this teenage boy has a pleasant, peaceful look on his face. In life, he was a violent gangbanger, a homeboy, with utter disregard for almost everyone around him. Now, having been shot and killed by a rival gangster in an act of retribution, he has to be buried. And with that, he gets to place even more stress on his family. In this portrayal, the artist has painted a price tag on every item to emphasize the cost of the funeral. The coffin, the floral arrangements, their son's suit, everything must be paid for. Gangbangers never stop to think about who is going to bury them or how much it will cost. As his family looks on, they are comforted in knowing that they are doing their duty by providing a decent burial, but concerned because they paid a steep price. The family matriarch, the gangster's grandmother, has put up her house for sale and used her life savings to cover the whole thing. So, even in death, this gangster manages to cause trouble. Family sentiments aside, all that seems to really matter here is that this thoughtless, foolish young killer looks good on his way out. As a common form of street diversion, sex in the back of a car, unprotected sex, has much more to do with the transmission of diseases and unwanted pregnancies than it does with making love. The children of these unions are born at the mercy of their mother's addictions. Such sexual activity can be so matter-of-fact that someone else can be present, inhaling drugs, listening to music, yet in his own world. Ironically, a small statue of a saint was placed in the back window of this car. The purity that statue represents, though, is far from the thoughts of these three young people. Death will comfort addicts and coddle them, and do whatever it takes to have them fall meekly into its arms. This young heroin user is too high and too hooked to realize she has embraced a deadly partner. Not long ago, she was pretty and full of vigor. Soon, hers could be just another wasted life.
The violence that's indicative of the gangster lifestyle is both given and received. These gang members were cruising around with their children looking for trouble when they were ambushed. Perhaps they'd been planning to roam the boulevards and randomly provoke someone to justify a violent response. Or maybe their intent was to find a member of another gang and simply gun him down. No matter now, someone got to them first, and in the end, they senselessly sacrificed their lives and the lives of their innocent children who could not have known better than to trust them with their safety.
Innocents are often victims of the recklessness of gang violence, many of them helpless children. Here the bright light of a young child's soul radiates towards the heavens as his killers, some pictured as dead from the waist up, pause and stare at his body. Do they feel remorse? And what are the young boys being taught?
Test. Now we're good. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4.